Hello, and welcome to a more casual video today. I haven't done a book review in some time. I just didn't have the motivation for it, but I'm going to do one now. And I'm going to do a book review of a pretty obscure series. I didn't realize how obscure. These are going for a lot of money on eBay. I guess I can understand. They're 25 years old, but it doesn't seem that old to me, but I do understand if they're rare. But it's the Godzilla novels by Marc Cerasini, and I apologize if I mispronounced that name. Basically, it's like this. In 1998, America made their first foray into a Godzilla film. They got the rights from Toho, and they made the Godzilla movie. For you Godzilla fans out there, I'm sure you know about this, but the movie was not that great, honestly. Even as a science fiction movie, it would be okay. But just a science fiction monster movie, but to make it into a Godzilla film, the monster didn't look like Godzilla, didn't act like Godzilla. It didn't really have the je ne sais quoi of a good Godzilla movie. Now, the States did improve much. They improved greatly with the legendary movies. They're making them now. They're doing really well. I personally like Godzilla King of the Monsters the best, even though that one didn't do as well, as far as in the box office. I think it really, it's hard to, appeal to the fans and to the general public. The Godzilla fans, which I'm included in that. I grew up with the Godzilla movies. It's a niche group. So, that movie had all of the old monsters from the Toho movies in them, and I guess it just didn't appeal to most of the fans. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for the Marc Cerasini books. But anyway, going back to the 1998 movie, which is what I wanted to talk about. But when that came out, I don't know if any of you remember that when it came out in North America, but the media and the publicity for it was enormous. They were advertising Godzilla everywhere, including the fact that when the states were allowed to make these Godzilla movies, they were also allowed to make Godzilla books. I think this is the first, as far as I know, and I'm a pretty big fan, so I could be wrong though. You correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think this is the first adult or young adult. I think this is classified as an adult science fiction novel series that came out in English. I think it's the first one, and it came out in the mid '90s. I think this one might have come out in '97. Let's have a look. This is the first one. 1996, November 96. Okay, so just shy of 97, and the movie was released in early 90 or spring of 98. So, as I mentioned, they were making the movie at this point, so they already got the rights to do this. Now, I will say this book series is much better than the movies. It uses the Toho and the Showa and the Heisei monsters, which again, if you're not familiar with Godzilla, there are several time periods for the movies. The Showa era was from 1954, the very first movie, and ended in '75 with Terra Mechagodzilla. Then The Return of Godzilla in 1984, or what's been in the English dub, Godzilla 1985, that was the beginning of the Heisei series, ending with Godzilla vs. Destroyer in 1995. So when this came out, I should mention that Godzilla vs. Destroyer, they killed off Godzilla. So even though they kill off monsters all the time, they bring them back. But at the time, they thought that was going to be the end of the Godzilla movies, especially in Japan. So maybe that's why the Toho was able to, the States, they were able to buy the rights to make movies from Toho. I don't know if that's the reason why or not. But anyway, they weren't planning on making any more movies. In fact, I think the 1998 movie was so bad that they decided, well, give us back the rights and we'll make our own movies and we'll do it the right way. But I don't know if that's the reason why they started making movies again. But anyway, the point of it is that they used the Heisei and the Showa monsters in these books. But they all have a different origin. The only movie that is considered part of this storyline is the original 1954 movie. The first book, Godzilla Returns, continues right after from the 1954 movie. It's supposed to be in the modern times of the 90s, but nothing else everything else is thrown away. Just the 1954 movie is the canon storyline from this series, which isn't uncommon even in the movies. A lot of times in the Godzilla movies, they throw out everything except the 1954 movie, and they continue from there. That happens pretty often, actually. So anyway, let's have a look at this series now. Starts off with Godzilla Returns. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the 1954 movie, but That was the movie. Okay, Godzilla got goofier as time went on, but the 1954 movie was a completely serious movie, and there was an allegory on the atomic bomb. Remember, Japan was just atom bombed less than 10 years before this movie came out, so that was weighing on people's minds. There was also an atomic test that affected a fishing boat called the Lucky Dragon. That was pretty recent as well, and so all of this stuff was happening just. This is very current event when the movie came out. But anyway, Godzilla went on a rampage, and it was awakened by the atomic testing. It went on a rampage, and it was radioactive, and it demolished Japan. And they were only able to beat it by the weapon by Dr. Sarazawa called the Oxygen Destroyer, which is a secret weapon, or a weapon that he made, and he was so afraid of it being used, misused, that he killed himself when he made when he destroyed Godzilla, and he also destroyed all of his notes from the weapon. But anyway, Godzilla Returns takes place 40 years after that, and I think again it was made in 1996, but I think the timeline is in the future. So let's see, yeah, the first chapter is in 1996, and that's Godzilla's first appearance in 40 years, and then it goes to 1998 right away. So it's a few years after when the book was written. But anyway, Godzilla was thought to have been dead for 40 years, and he did appear, and he destroyed, I think, a nuclear sub. I forget what he destroyed first, but anyway, he destroyed something, and he was back. But for 2 more years, he was dormant. Now, this book follows a protagonist. I don't remember his name. Oh, Brian Shimura. He is a Japanese-American college student who's going to Japan to be a reporter, an intern at a big news network. And he befriends his roommate. I forget his name too, but let me see here. I have no script. I'm working completely off the cuff. But his roommate is also one of the main characters. Nick. Nick something. I have his first name. But his roommate Nick, he's also an American, and Brian is very kind of not timid, but he's more withdrawn. Nick is just very extroverted, very outgoing, and on top of that, he also, because his personality is just so vibrant, the editor doesn't really like him very much. I mean, Nick is a good reporter, but he's just too full of himself. So anyway, and Nick kind of balks against the editors kind of holding him back. Brian is just like, let's just enjoy ourselves, do our jobs, and not, antagonize people. But anyway, Nick and Brian, they become friends, and they get entangled in the appearance of Godzilla. Oh, I should mention, Nick also, his ex-girlfriend works at the newspaper as the secretary of the main editor, the main boss. I forget her name right now. I know she was a pretty redhead. And anyway, I should mention too, as far as it goes, these books, I would say they're G-rated. I mean, what I mean by that is this. There is no immorality in them. There is no bad language, or very little. I don't remember any. But, of course, Godzilla and the monsters are rampaging. There's no violence as far as, graphic descriptions of death and dismemberment, but people do die, and that's not, but... So maybe PG rated, but I mean, they're completely family friendly as far as my opinion goes. But anyway, so again, it was just someone that he dated. It's nothing immoral. But anyway, his girlfriend now wants nothing to do with him, but it turns out that she still likes him, and he definitely still likes her. He's been chasing her around. But anyway, the long story short is, like I said, they're all caught up in this whole Godzilla appearing again. He attacks Japan. They do get the story of it, again, they're reporters, they get that story, they do some kind of foolish risk, actually, but they do get the story, and Godzilla is actually, defeated. Again, I should mention, there's a spoiler alert on these are 4 books. Oh, there's something else I should mention, too. It's actually a 5-book series. The 1998 movie did so poorly that Toho pulled the rights to everything that America was making, including this wonderful series. So they only made the first 4 books. There's a coming attraction for book 5, but it was never published, unfortunately. So it kind of ends on a cliffhanger in a way. But anyway, sorry, I don't mean to jump back and forth. But in the first book, as I was mentioning, I should mention now this isn't part of the canon, so this is supposed to have happened for the first time. But in Godzilla 1985, in that movie, or the Return of Godzilla, Godzilla was actually drawn away from attacking Japan by bird sound. They found out that he follows the flocks of birds, so they kind of copied that kind of motif in this, and he's drawn away by that sound. But the uncle of Brian's is he's an American, he's a Caucasian American, and I think he's an uncle by marriage, but Brian looks up to him. He's a general in the I want to say the U.S. Army, but he's there for a reason, I forget why. And his best friend is a scientist. He's a Japanese scientist, and the military and the Japanese government don't really listen to them, because I mean, like the scientist was even saying, you know, you can't. Don't attack Godzilla while he's rampaging through Japan, because conventional weapons won't do anything to him. He regenerates so fast. I mean, it's not like Superman where the bullets bounce off, but they shoot missiles at Godzilla, and they're videoing it, so they like watch it in slow motion, where the missile does damage Godzilla, but he heals almost instantly. So, like, you know, they won't be able to, like, even with a barrage of missiles, he heals too fast for them to really affect him. So anyway, they used this bird song to lure Godzilla into the deepest trench in the ocean. The problem is that they're not using a military plane or anything like that, because the military doesn't believe them. They use a private plane, like a prop plane, or maybe a private jet. But either way, it doesn't have enough fuel to go to the trench and back. So they basically sacrifice themselves in order to stop Godzilla. The plane runs out of fuel. They know it's going to run out of fuel. They knew that beforehand. It runs out of fuel, plunges into the ocean. Godzilla plunges into the ocean and goes into the trench and isn't seen for a few years. And that's how Godzilla is defeated in this book. But it's a really good book. I really enjoyed it. Now, it's to be continued in the second book, Godzilla 2000, not to be confused with the movie Godzilla 2000, completely different plot. And this takes place in 2000, or it's like late 1999. I should mention now, in this book, they talk about the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, okay? Well, basically, there's this, supposed to be this group of asteroids, like a whole group of them, kind of like the asteroid belt between the outer planets and the inner planets. But rather than just circling the Earth, it actually, every 65 million years, it basically travels in an ellipse, passing through the orbit of the Earth. So the last time it passed through, apparently there was an asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs, okay? So now it's going to be passing through, and again, I should mention this was written in 1990, well, the first one was written in 1996, this was written in 1997, November 97. So you remember during this time, the whole thing with asteroids hitting the Earth was big. Deep Impact, Armageddon, they were both movies about asteroids hitting the Earth. I think, again, the time period, this was a big deal. So anyway, I think, let me see, so it's a different group of protagonists. Brian and Nick are in this, but they're not really the stars of it the way they were in the first one. But either way, there's a scientist, a young scientist, like maybe in his early 20s. He's a college student, I believe. He spots the asteroid first, and he realizes that it's going to be, this asteroid field is going to be coming towards the Earth and hitting the Earth. So it's supposed to be a world-ending event. So, the governments decide to, like, do a project, not like the spaceship and everything else, like a Deep Impact, but they're just going to launch nuclear missiles at the asteroids to, like, stop them from hitting the Earth. And they're going to use the Mir space station as a platform for this, as well as launching them from the Earth, and also the space shuttle Atlantis, I believe. So remember, this is before the International Space Station, so the Mir space station was the big space station in space at the time. So, okay, long and short, the asteroids, the preliminary asteroids do land on the Earth. Not the big one that's supposed to be the Earth-shattering event, but a few of the small ones hit the Earth. One of them has this goo that, again, this is where you'll find the yellow monster's origins are. The goo, it turns those who have eaten it huge and make them into monsters. The Kayamacris, the giant praying mantises, they're one of them. The Spiga. I'm trying to remember if there's any more from the goo. Maybe, I don't remember. Maybe that's it. So they so not only is there going to be an earth-shattering asteroid, but now there's these monsters. The Kamakura swarm, they're attacking Kansas of all places, the very center of Kansas. They're not indestructible the way Godzilla is, but it does take the army a long time to deal with them, and they destroy an entire small town in Kansas. In the meantime, Varan appears. He is kind of like he's a monster from the 50s as well in Toho. He's it's hard to explain what he looks like. He is much smaller than Godzilla. He's also a lizard. He's on all fours. He has a tail, and he can okay, so one of his powers though, his main power is that he can kind of like be a flying squirrel in the sense that he can draw oxygen into his bubbles and then expel them, so he can basically go up into the air and then float down. And he can control the direction he's going. So he can basically fly, but not like, not more float, more like jump and float. But anyway, he appears as well in Mexico, and there's some reporters. I guess the Marc Cerasini, who likes his reporters. The protagonist there is a teenage girl, and her entourage. She's kind of a new TV caster reporter, an up and coming one. But anyway, they cover that. So there's a whole thing going on. But anyway, in the meantime, the twin fairies, Mothra's twin fairies appear, and they warn people not to, try to destroy that big asteroid. And, of course, people are like, what are you talking about? It's going to destroy the Earth. We have to do that. So, this video is getting long, so I'm going to explain this. Godzilla, I should mention, Godzilla reappears. And he's basically cutting a swath of destruction across the United States. I think he appears in California, and he's walking from west to east, just destroying things on his way. So of course he's not destroying the entire United States, just basically a big strip of it as he goes by. But anyway, one of the things that happens then, the military does attack it, and does attack him, and Godzilla, like I said before, the missiles do affect him, so even though he heals right away, they blow chunks off him, and it falls, and people start suffering from radiation sickness, because again, remember, Godzilla was radioactive. They actually mention that there's the flakes of skin on the blood, that, again, this isn't too graphic, because the person actually thought it was like rubber from a rubber tire, and the green goo, they didn't know what it was, but it's actually Godzilla's skin and blood, and it just is so radioactive that people just start getting sick. But anyway, so they decided to just leave him be and just let him do his thing, because they don't want to, I think they do attack him out west, but once he gets, to the middle part of the United States, and, basically, because that the East Coast is so much more popular than the West Coast. They attack him, I think, in the Rocky Mountains and so forth, and they're in the deserts of, the western part of the United States. But once they get to the east, they're just can't, it'll cause too much death among the populace to try to attack him. But anyway, the twin fairies also explain that Godzilla is, even though he's causing this destruction, he's not the real enemy. They shouldn't attack him. Again, they don't, not because they're listening to the fairies, but because of the fact that it could be damaging to the populace. Also, Rodan appears. There's this scientist in Alaska who is traveling with the Inuit and the indigenous people up there, and one of them says that a monster Rodan's going to appear, and he does. But in the Canadian military and then the American military attack it too, and I should say the Air Force, and he just wipes him out. But anyway, he isn't really damaging anything. He's migrating south to lay an egg and then going back up north. So he does that. So, when I first read these books, I should mention, I read them for the first time in the summer of 1999. I did a big road trip, over a 2,300 mile road trip each way to Arizona to visit a friend of mine. And, I spent 2 weeks with him, and I was on vacation, but he wasn't, so he had to work. So I bought these books, and I was reading them while he was working, and I really enjoyed them. I remember that distinctly. Not just enjoying the books, but also the fact that I was on a big road trip, a big vacation. Just a really enjoyable time. That's a little aside. But anyway, so when I first read these books, I thought, well, Rodan, Varan, all of these monsters are going to team up with Godzilla and fight King Ghidorah. Oh, I should mention, okay, I didn't want to give it away, but King Ghidorah is on the cover of the Godzilla 2000 book, so I knew he was going to be in the book. And you even see Rodan there too, and Godzilla. So I thought, just like in the Showa era, they're gonna team up and fight King Ghidorah. No, that's not what happens really. Like I said, Varan is just doing his thing, Rodan's doing his thing, and Godzilla is the one that the fairy said is going to be fighting King Ghidorah. Okay, I didn't want to give that away. But anyway, there's also the Super X is okay. Remember the Super X in Godzilla 1985? There are two super planes that are basically going to be are going to be used to fight. Well, they're used to fight Varan especially. I think they do try to fight Godzilla, but not they don't really do much against him. I should mention, so the books start, if I remember correctly, with this kid playing a video game, kind of like The Last Starfighter. Remember how that video game was a test to see if they're worthy to be a starfighter? Well, these video games are installed by the government, and the winners of these become fighter pilots in this big Super X plane. And again, this is I guess it's more of a young adult than an adult novel. I said it's an adult novel, but most of the protagonists are teenagers or 20-somethings. And these guys are teenagers. I think they're all still in high school, so they're like 16, maybe 17. So, in reality, I don't think any government's going to have 16, 17-year-olds and say, yep, you're going to be fighter pilots. That's not what's going to happen. But anyway, they're the ones who were in the Super X and the Super X 2, which is, I think they're called the Raptor and the Raptor 2. I say Super X because I think of the Godzilla 1985 movie, which is a Heisei thing. But anyway, the long and short of it is, I know I'm bringing a lot of non sequiturs into this book. Into this video. I'm trying to remember the books off the top of my head. But the giant asteroid, the nuclear weapons do destroy the giant asteroid. It cracks it open and destroys it, and it's just in space now. And they're like, okay, yeah, the Earth isn't going to be destroyed because the asteroid's not going to hit it. Well, that's true. But the asteroid actually, I don't know if it's supposed to be an egg or if he was imprisoned in it, but the asteroid houses King Ghidorah. So, even worse, well, maybe not worse, but it's a major threat. And King Ghidorah comes out, he destroys the Mir space station, he destroys the Atlantis, which is the space shuttle Atlantis, and, then he goes to Earth and he starts, like, completely destroying the Earth. I mean, I know he wipes out Paris, and I think he's destroying other places as well. And, the big showdown at the end of the book is Godzilla, as who's still going from west to east. He comes to New York City, of all places, and so that's where he meets with King Ghidorah. They have this huge fight, which is pretty good. I mean, the first book is just Godzilla, so you expect with all these monsters there to be for there to be a fight. Now again, in Kayamakuris, Varan, Rodan, they're not in this fight. Only it's just Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. Which is fine. Again, a Heisei movie in 1991 was Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. So, I was expecting more of a Showa team-up, but still, it was fine. So, King Ghidorah is defeated. His middle head is destroyed, which again, well, this goes back to the Heisei period. If you remember in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, the middle head was destroyed, and they make a Mecha King Ghidorah with a mechanical middle head. In this book, the middle head is destroyed, King Ghidorah runs, and is presumed to eventually die out as he goes out to sea. And Godzilla, if I remember correctly, I think he just goes into the ocean and disappears for the end of the book. So the book ends, and there's a swath of destruction through the U.S., and there's destruction in other places, but the monsters are gone, and everything seems to be okay. Now, the third book, Godzilla at World's End. I can't even say this is my favorite because they're all favorites of mine. I really don't know if I think every book of this 4-book series is excellent. There's none where I'm like it really drags on this one. Book 4 is probably my least favorite, maybe. I don't even know that though. They're just all good. Now this book is really good. It starts off with if I do have to pick a favorite, this one would be a strong contender for it. But again, we're talking like they're all from 9.5 to 10s in a scale of 1 to 10. So the fourth book might be a 9.5. The second and third books are probably 9.95, like very close to 10. If anything, it probably would be a 10. The first book is probably a 9.9. So they're all incredibly good. And this one starts off in 10 years before the main storyline. There is an explorer he's in Alaska with a bunch of sled dogs and his teenage daughter. Why you'd bring a teenage daughter on a dangerous thing like that, I don't know. But anyway, the ground, they're going across a glacier. The ground opens, and the sled dogs, both. Okay, so they're each on their own sled, and they're being sled dogs are running the sled. They're the ones driving the sled. Anyway, the scientist, he is killed instantly. And I think his sled dogs are killed. Now the teenage girl, she does not die there, and she's able to stop, and she goes down into the hole that's made to see if her father is okay. And the sled dogs, she hears them howling in fright, and then they all get killed. She doesn't know why, and then she looks up and sees something, and she screams, and that's the end. That's all you hear about her. And now it's 10 years later, back into the present day, which I think... Okay, let me tell you when this was written and when it takes place. Godzilla at World's End. Okay, and again, I don't want to spoil anything, but you can see Biolante is on the cover. That's a Heisei monster. Yes. And this was written in 1998. There's no month for this one. I don't see... Oh, April 1998. There is a month. I'm sorry. And the prologue is in 1992. But the actual book takes place in the end of 2000. So again, it's a little bit... This is supposed to be a little bit in the future from when the books were written. So it's the November of 2000. And, so... No, that's the beginning. I think the actual... That was the first chapter. No, it's 2000. I'm sorry. Yeah. So late 2000 or 2001. Okay. So let's see. It's later. There is a scientific group in Alaska. There's a whole bunch of them no, not in Alaska. I'm sorry. I said Alaska. I'm wrong. This is the Arctic Circle. This is where even the teenage girl, she's in the Arctic Circle, not Alaska. My mistake. So she's in the Arctic Circle. There's also the scientific. I mean, that's where she was lost, disappears. Now years later, this group, the scientists are in the Arctic Circle. Our main scientists that we're viewing, that we're following in the book, all of these weird things are happening. There's huge hole forms in the Arctic Circle. I mean, like, I don't mean a hole like the one that the scientists at the beginning fell down, but like a hole like a mile in diameter or more. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And these monsters start coming out of it. Now I do like how, like, one of them is Gigan, and the main scientist who we were following, he gets killed like halfway in the book. He's saying it's gigantic, and then in the middle of that he gets cut off because he gets killed. But they now actually it would be Gigan, I guess, or gigantic Gigan, but spelling it. They say that's why they call him Gigan. But anyway, Gigan appears from this. Megalon, Batra, which is a Heisei monster. Quite a few monsters. Let's see here. I'm looking here at the monsters that are on the back. They have the little symbols of the monsters that appear in the book. So we know Godzilla. Anguirus does not... Okay, Anguirus appears, but not from this. He's a monster too that was long dormant, and he's been attacking an oil rig. So he's nothing to do with this hole in the Arctic Circle. Batra, like I mentioned her or him. Biolante, we'll find out later. Gigan Hedera, the smog monster. That also appears there. Manda is in the book. Does Manda appear from there? Manda might have appeared out of that too. I don't remember. I know she was he. I don't remember. I know Manda had I think attacked Hong Kong, but I don't remember if he was part of that. Megalon, and so Martha and Rodan are also in the book. Anyway, so our main protagonist here, or it's one of the kids from the second book with the who was part of the fighter pilot thing, but also there's another there's this expedition to go around the world in a Zeppelin. That's what you see at the very beginning here. Now the scientist who does that, he has a teenage daughter also who's the first mate of the Zeppelin, and they also get a bunch of like really bright kids. Oh, they're trying to rebuild the United States. They've been trying to do that for a while. The government's been pouring funds into the affected areas, but nothing's really happening. And to jumpstart that, this newscaster, this news program is also they've got these bright kids and they decided they're all going to go on this expedition in the Zeppelin. And so again, that's why I said maybe it's a young adult series, because they're kids, teenagers that are protagonists of these books. But anyway, they are going to be the main protagonist. But as this thing goes on in the Arctic, the army decides, the military decides that they need to, they want to commandeer the Zeppelin, because all planes and everything are being destroyed who would go into the, to the Arctic. But they realize that non-powered, aircraft won't be. That's what they think. And so the Zeppelin, it is powered, but not the same way a jet plane is. They think it'll be okay, and it is. But anyway, they bring there's a contingent of soldiers that are put into the Zeppelin as well. The main protagonist there is a kid who is he lied about his age. He's 16, not 18, I think, or whatever the age is, and he's a soldier. And because his brother is a kind of a deadbeat, or not a deadbeat, he ran off to Australia, and he actually has a little part of the book as well. But anyway, he uses his brother's identity to say that he's of age and could be in the military. Anyway, so it turns out this gets real. I mean, not that the rest of it's based on a true story, but the science fiction clamps up to 11 in this one. There is an alien race that was on the Earth way before humanity, and they had this city that is buried in the Arctic. And that girl from the very beginning, she finds it, she basically hooks into it, and she's the one controlling these monsters. She makes these monsters out of, like, it's supposed to be like genetic mutations, basically, and Gigan, Megalon, and the rest of them. And she's so mad at humanity because they didn't come to save her father that she wants to destroy humanity. She's kind of crazy. Anyway, so the Biolante is her monster that she left there at that dead city that's below the Arctic Circle. And so Godzilla, he appears, he's doing his thing, but anyway, I think Mothra convinces Godzilla to follow maybe Godzilla senses this, I forget why now, but Godzilla follows the Zeppelin and he fights Biolante while they get away. But it also turns out that these aliens, there were 3 of them, they are dormant. They've been dormant for millions of years, and our human Zeppelin crew, they managed to wake these aliens, and so they take over, and rather than the teenage girl doing her thing, they basically stop everything and they leave. Now, the teenage girl is also mutated now. She's plugged into the computer. She has been for years, and she's kind of like, not a cyborg, but like I don't know how to describe it. She's not just hooked into the computer, but she's also organically changed. So I think she dies at the end as well, or she just stays in this abandoned city. I don't remember. But anyway, Godzilla is. He is, when this place is destroyed, because the aliens destroy everything and they leave, or they just, I think they leave, or maybe they decide to just die. I don't remember now. But anyway, the whole place is, even the hole and the hole in the Arctic Circle that the Zeppelin went through in order to get there, it's closed up. They tell them they're going to close it. They manage to escape, but Godzilla is still fighting Biolante, and he finally defeats Biolante, but he's buried, there under all this rock and everything in the Arctic Circle, and they think that's the end of Godzilla. And so that's where the 3rd book ends. So now the 4th book, Godzilla versus the Robot Monsters. Godzilla appears because he wasn't killed with the avalanche of everything, but he was severely weakened. But he does come across an underground. This is all subterranean, like really far down into the earth. This deposit of radioactive material, and it revives him. And a volcano erupts on some island, and he comes out of the volcano. So it's pretty cool. But anyway. While that's happening too, you remember at the end of the 2nd book, King Ghidorah, he lost his middle head and they thought he died. He actually crashed in Mongolia of all places, and this warlord in Mongolia finds him, and he decides to make him into Mecha King Ghidorah. He's gonna use technology to make a 3rd artificial head and basically control him. And there's a little girl who has some problems. Sort of explain, she lost her parents, she's very bitter. A little young girl, actually, but he uses her to control Mecha King Ghidorah. Really weird. But anyway, Mecha King Ghidorah is going to be attacking humanity because this warlord, of all things, he hates China, so he's going to attack China. But I think our nations are going to get involved with this too, because it's Mecha King Ghidorah. And so he has Mecha King Ghidorah. In the meantime, with all of the monsters and the Raptor projects, that's that Super X plane, it didn't really pan out the way they wanted it to. So America builds Mecha Godzilla. And if you remember, besides in the 70s Showa era, Mecha Godzilla was built by aliens. The Heisei and the Millennium era, he was built by humanity. So in this, he's built by humanity, Mecha King Ghidorah. Mecha Godzilla, I think this is actually the first... This might be the first time Mecha Godzilla was built by humans. I come to think of it, because I don't think he was built yet. And this was made, I don't think that they had that storyline. But either way, Mecha Godzilla is created by America. Mogura was also another robot monster from the Toho era. He's built by Russia in this, and they kind of have a rivalry in the sense of, like, who's the better robot to fight these monster threats. But anyway, of all things, okay, so Varan is taken care of. Anguis is captured by the Russians, but just barely. But anyway, when Mecha King Ghidorah attacks, Godzilla and Mecha Godzilla and Mogura team up to fight him, but the Russians have this sneaky plan. So, like, once he's almost defeated, Mogura turns on Godzilla and on Mecha Godzilla. So it basically culminates with the robot monsters being destroyed, but the people in them, because there are some teenagers, I think in both actually, in the Russian and the American, they're not killed, although one is paralyzed, and the monsters are destroyed. Godzilla goes off again, and basically he's the last one standing. Mecha King Ghidorah is also destroyed, and it's a pretty good book. I just want to wrap this up though and say that the series is really good. It was kind of on a cliffhanger though, because it was supposed to be a fifth book and final book in the series, but like I said earlier, that never was made because the 1998 Godzilla movie did so poorly that Toho pulled the rights from it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little overview of these Godzilla books. It lasted quite a bit longer than I expected it to, but I wanted to do it justice, especially because these books are so rare that most people probably never heard of them, or never seen them at least. So I hope you don't mind the spoiler review, but like I said, the books are incredibly good, but I think they're going for like maybe $75 to $100 a piece on eBay, so I don't know if it's worth quite that much. I had them for years and years. I don't plan on selling them, but if I do, make some good money that way, I guess. Alright, leave in the comments. Hopefully you guys enjoyed these Godzilla books, and if you have any comments about anything else or questions, feel free to ask me. Just please no foul language. Thank you, and have a nice day.